Rise to speak again on, in this process of urgency, on the budget measures, financial support for newborn children bill. And I'd like to just pick up on a couple of points made by the Minister, or one primarily about the fiscal responsibility that has enabled the government to support this initiative at this time. And I really do want to remind New Zealand that this bill, we're being told, is going to cost about $172 million a year, and that is while the tax cuts that this government introduced has cost this country $5 billion over the last term of Parliament. And the $61 billion of debt that this government has got the country into, up from $14 billion, has now meant that we are paying $1 billion a year in interest off that debt. That is so much lost opportunity for the children and the families of this country that it really puts this $172 million bill in perspective for me, while I celebrate it, because it's a step on the journey and at least it's going in the right direction, unlike those tax cuts, unlike the profligate spending on American-style motorways. But to get to some of the specific points of the bill again, you know, the Green Party, as I've said, we believe passionately in an economy that serves the people and the environment, because basically that's what the economy is there for. It's a tool to serve people and the environment. And this is a chance to use our shared resources to look after our children. The Green Party want to see every single child in this country thriving, and we want to use our economy the best way that we can to deliver that for our children, and paid parental leave is a key part of that mix, and we are very pleased to support it. We are also pleased to be supporting, with a caveat, and I'm hoping others in the House will support my SOP, the extension or increase in payment of the parental tax credit. Because this tax credit recognises that the financial support for the need for extra financial support for lower income parents, so that they can spend time with their newborn babies and to help with the costs of things like nappies and clothes and other essentials in those first few weeks of life. That's a worthy thing to do. That's going to help take off some of the pressure for families that are struggling so much at the moment, and it will increase that payment from $150 a week to $220. $70 a week for lower and middle income families is a huge amount, and it will make a really big difference. The tragedy of this provision, though, is that it isn't being extended to the families who are in the most need, who could really, really make the most out of that $70 a week, who for them would make a substantial difference to their quality of life and their ability to care for their newborn baby. The regulatory impact statement tells us that the intent of this policy provision is to increase the amount of financial support available, and that's the primary objective. And secondly, to target this additional support to the period around the birth of the new child. Thirdly, to target this additional support to lower and middle income families. And then fourthly, sadly, part of the policy intent of this for the government is to minimise any impacts on work incentives, as if parenting is not a job that we should be valuing above all other jobs, as if parents who are out of the paid workforce should be thinking about being in paid workforce while their baby is a newborn. Surely that's not something we want to be encouraging. And I really would remind the House and apply some of the submissions for those on the Select Committee who sat through Sue Moroney's the submissions to Sue Moroney's bill on paid parental leave, some of the stories that we heard about the importance and the difference that it made and not having it, the heartbreak that it was wrought, where we heard from a nurse working in the intensive care unit who was shocked to discover that so many parents having to leave their babies during the day to go to work because they couldn't take leave. That's been the reality for families in this country. And the extension of paid parental leave to those casual workers and seasonal workers will mean that's not the reality for some women now, and that's incredibly important. But the same concept for the parental tax credit applies in this situation of that need. We heard of one woman who couldn't afford to take leave as her partner was unable to be in paid work at the time, so she had to return to work after 24 hours of giving birth. And she told us how she now has to look at photos of her babies to remember those early years. And that, you know, the deep sadness of missing all those key milestones of her baby. I mean, it's heartbreaking to think that's how our society has been operating for so long, and that we are now in 2015, where these families can be torn apart in that way when we make policy choices that could prevent that. And this paid parental leave provision here is a step towards that. It should be 6 months because that is the breastfeeding milestone, and it is the point where the research tells us so much can be done. We actually support 13 months because that's about the establishment of the full family at that time. But the paid parental or the parental tax credit also as a way of indicating how we want to support our families and those in the most need. And when 285,000 children in this country are living in poverty, to exclude the families in the most need from this financial support at the time of a newborn baby in the family, it's hard not to see a cruelty in that, as well as a level of discrimination, which the courts have recognised, as others have. Mike Sabin says, you know, cynically discriminating against those people who work. Some people are not in a position to work, and I would like to let the member know that in America, there's been research done to look at women on the DPB and the reasons they're on the DPB. And over 50% of those women overseas were there because they were leaving violent relationships. Now, I'd like to ask the member, do you want those women to get to a place of safety, to be able to support their children and stay out of that relationship? If the answer is yes, then you should not be discriminating against those families. We should be nurturing and supporting those families. If you support ending family violence, then you should support universal provisions for families. He should. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. He should be supporting those. Of course, Mr. Speaker would support that. So I'm sorry for bringing you into the debate, yes. And I would just like to finish finally, just another story that came through in the Select Committee around the importance of this issue, of a woman with twins who had to go back to work when her twins were 5 months old and had to leave work every 2.5 hours to breastfeed, all while her babies were both still waking at different times of the night to breastfeed. And, you know, not surprisingly, this wasn't sustainable for her. And so she resigned after 5 weeks back at work. And 3 years on, she's still working part-time outside of the industry that she's trained in. And she's estimated that that's cost her family about $70,000 because we didn't have the policies in place to be able to support her to stay in work at that time. And this, sadly, the 18 weeks isn't quite getting us there either. We can do better as a country. Imagine just, you know, if we hadn't had those tax cuts, how much more we could be offering to our children and our families right now.
Louise Upston. Speaker, it's a great day for New Zealanders today in New Zealand.